The fact that we have this long history and this deep attachment to our city, the fact that it's our capital, is a historical and current fact. But it's amazing that it wasn't recognized, even though it's in front of everybody's faces. And we have to congratulate President Trump for recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital and moving the embassy here. And we have to recognize also Ambassador Friedman's pivotal role in this action, and I do that again and again. Now, I want you to know that President Trump consulted with me before he did this move. And he said, what do you think will happen? Will there be a lot of violence? Will be demonstrations, protests throughout the Arab world? And I said, look, I can't guarantee that there won't be such manifestations of protest, but I don't think so. You know, I just don't think so. Anyway, he did it. He did it. And what happened as a result? Nothing. Now, this wasn't the only place for which we had an historical attachment. There's another place. And that place had Jewish presence some 2,000 years ago, which continued until the 8th century, until a great earthquake shook us from that place. That place is the Golan Heights. We uncovered some 30 synagogues, ancient synagogues in the Golan Heights. Some have been remarkably reconstructed. And again, President Trump decided to recognize the Golan Heights as part of Israel, sovereign state of Israel. And people said, again, there will be a tremendous convulsion. And what happened? Nothing. Why did nothing happen? How come? Well, the reason nothing happened is because something very big is happening. And what is happening is the transformation of Israel in the minds of many in the Middle East. It is no longer being perceived as an enemy, but as an indispensable ally against the common enemy of militant Islam. First, the one led by the militant Sunnis, Al-Qaeda and Daesh, and more by the militant Shiites, of course by Iran and its various proxies. The Arab states recognize that this militancy is a danger to them, no less than it is a danger to us, and therefore they make common cause with us. But as they make common cause with us to defend ourselves against a common foe, a common enemy, I would say the relations begin to normalize in other fields as well, not only to drive out the bad, but to foster the good, economic relations, technological relations, and other things as well. There is a clear shift, and that is important. It's important for peace. This is the way peace will ultimately be achieved. Now, the fact that we have common interests is not necessarily the same as common values. That is not necessarily the same. I do not claim that the Arab countries around us are Western European democracies. They are not. But they also understand that unless we cooperate, we could be threatened by a great evil power that would make the possibility of change, the hope for a better future for our peoples, something that will simply disappear and dissipate. But there is also the sharing of common values, and that's what we have here today. What we have today is the alliance of those who believe in our great Judeo-Christian tradition. We have no better friends in the world than our Christian friends. And I want to thank each of you for your friendship. And it's no accident that in Israel, that's the only place in the Middle East where Christians are free to practice their faith, complete religious freedom for all, and especially for Christians who are constantly under attack in the Middle East, constantly. You know, at the beginning of the 20th century, the Middle East had 20% of its population was Christian. It's down to 4% today, including in the city of Bethlehem. That youth Christian, it's down to 20%. And what we want to do in Israel is to continue to guard the religious freedom of all. And our Christian friends recognize this, and they appreciate that for this reason as well. So thank you. Thank you for your solidarity, always. And I think it's also an important fact that you mentioned, Michael, that with the pictures that flashed on the screen for a minute, it's important to understand that Jewish political Zionism would not have been possible with the 19th century Christian Zionism that preceded it, and in fact helped steer the course of modern Zionism. It's a fact that when Herzl spoke at the beginning, I think in 1903 in London, his greatest supporters were Christian Zionists, including Lloyd George, including Balfour and others. So there is an intimate relationship between Christian Zionism and Jewish Zionism, and one helped make the other possible. I think that today we have a common cause not only to protect Christians and Yazidis and Muslims and Jews, obviously, everywhere, but to protect our view of a civilization that guarantees individual rights, guarantees democracies, guarantees individual freedom. These are the elements that guide us. What does Israel stand for? Freedom. Freedom. The freedom of a nation that reemerged from the ashes and from exile. The freedom of people to speak their mind. The freedom of people to practice their faith. This is what we stand for. Now those who oppose us, which you mentioned, the new anti-Semitism, I think the best way to fight them is not merely to speak the truth, but also to expose these delegitimizers. Who do they stand with? Who do they stand with? They stand with Hamas, who shoots people in the back of the head in the square in Gaza. They stand with Daesh, who beheads people. They stand with Iran, the great protector of human rights. This is who they stand for. And I think that too has to be exposed. It's not only defense, it's also offense. And I would say, from my experience and everything, offense first. Offense first. Delegitimize the delegitimizers. You should do that everywhere, in the campuses, in the media, and here. So I welcome the opportunity to speak to the Friends of Zion. I welcome the opportunity to speak to our Christian friends, and I welcome the opportunity to speak to the press,